Welcome to Politics Done Right on KPFT. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Give me a call at 713-526-5738. That is 713-526-KPFT. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. It's going to be a tough show today because, you know what, this is one of the times that I am concerned. I am specifically concerned about the nation, where we're going. I'm seeing things happen like they did before. There are many who do not believe that it's the case. I do believe that it's the case. But before I get started, let me see. Roxy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Egberto. How are you?
Well, so far so good, Roxy. But as you can see, I'm in that frame of mind right now, where you want to say, where are we going? Where are we going? Folks, are we crazy or what? Are we going to start looking at things the right way or not? I'm going crazy. But before we get started with this, how was your day?
My day was good. I felt like I had multiple situations that brought me down.
Right.
However, I had more situations that brought me up.
Well,
so
that is what we want. We want the positive.
Yes,
we want to
positive.
we want to try positive affirmations, and ultimately after this show, I want positive affirmation because I'm going to tell folks, we need to go out there and do something. We need to be proactive. You know, this weekend I had a great time. Went out there to Conroe, at the Conroe downtown. They had this great event. Leticia Van de Poot was there. We also had Sam Houston, Michael Collier. They were all stumping, and it was fun watching them all stump for the vote. So, I felt great that you had people trying to engage the community, and the people showed up, and the people were receptive to what they were all saying. So I was happy about that. Now, I think, though, that unless we get people out there voting, and folks, this is speaking to you all, anybody that's listening to my voice, your vote does count. It is important that if you want your will to be done, that you really vote. In Texas, many people don't think it counts. It does count. Folks, this is a call-in show. The telephone number is 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-KPFT. Roxy says it this way.
713-JAM-KPFT.
We need to hear from you, so give us a call. This is a touchy subject. I want your engagement. I want to take your pulse. I want you to take my pulse. Folks, it is déjà vu all over again. How shallow is our memory, folks? For those who believe the narrative that is prevailing, it is imperative that we note the art of persuasion is powerful. The American media, for all practical purpose, is a monolith. It is a monolith easily manipulated and controlled by the American plutocracy, by the military-industrial complex, by the titans of finance, by all that gets some sort of benefit, except you. They are one and all the same. The small boat that those powerful puppeteers are steering is dense. It displaces most rational thought. It isn't that Americans are ignorant. It isn't that Americans are dumb. It is that the art of persuasion is powerful, man. They have the means, the financing, and the medium to get believable false choices between the gray matter residing between your ears. They have the proper delivery and studies to push your button. The ramp up to this war is no different than the ramp up to the Iraq war in the early 2000s. Every move by Islamists were made an existential threat to you. To you. They played on your fears. They played on our fears. They're doing it again. So far, the polls say we are all falling for it. It is not for us, or rather, it is now time for us to wake up. There's many good friends right now that they take exception to this position. They take exception to the belief that somehow we are being steered into an unnecessary war, into a dishonest war. Many, in fact, I've written several blog posts at Daily Kos, likely the most liberal blog space in the country, and even a vast plurality of those on that network have sort of bought in to ISIS being an existential threat to you and me. Folks, it is not. And what I ask you to do is not listen to what you hear on TV, not listen to what you see on TV, not listen to what you read on several blog posts that are nothing, that much of it is being puppeteered. If that is a legal word, I don't know if it's grammatically correct. You can talk to me and tell me later on. But that, let me tell you, folks, it is not the case. So I want to start with, you know what time it is.
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Well, yesterday I was watching, the Sunday news as we all do, and there was Boner. Boner was on ABC. John Boner. So I titled my blog post after seeing him, and I had to do the video as well, of course. I'd let you listen to it after the blog post. But John Boner seemed, I wrote the blog and I titled it, John Boner seemed to be pushing American boots on the ground in Iraq. It's deeper than that, but let's stick with he's trying to get our boots on the ground. It's a lot more than that. John Boner is continuing the escalation. The drumbeat to war is on again. America should be tired of the false choices they are continuously asked to make. Please, folks, no more false choices. Speak up to John Boehner and President Obama, folks. To be clear, ISIS or ISIL or whatever you want to call it is a barbaric, murderous, despicable group. That's a fact. I think we all agree with that. That can be said for many groups throughout the world that get no attention because they are in parts of the world we care nothing about. We can talk about Uganda. We can talk about Kenya in certain areas. We can talk about Chad. We can talk about Sudan. We can talk about place over place over place, folks. A lot of brutality. We just don't see it on U.S. national TV, but there's a lot of brutality out there. We don't care. Before America goes into war or creep into war, it must be determined if the price to go in is morally, financially, and humanely in our interest. General Zinni said ISIL, is not an existential threat to the U.S. on the Bill Maher show on Friday. In fact, he stated it is a regional threat, meaning, yes, ISIS in the peninsula, ISIS in those areas, yeah, they are a problem because they're killing, they're murdering. But you know what? A lot of the folks that they're murdering and killing are not fighting back. They're running. Should the United States be the sole purpose with boots on the ground, be the most effective ones? I don't know. What happens when we leave like we've just left? In fact, he stated it is a regional threat. That said, he acknowledged Ebola as an existential threat to the world that merits more attention. And I'm going to play you that video as well later on, man, folks. This opinion is shared by many others as stated in the Bill Maher piece. President Obama should follow his two simple but important doctrines. And you're going to laugh how I've encapsulated those doctrines. They're not really mine. I've stolen it from somebody, I don't know whom, but basically the two doctrines are: don't do stupid stuff. And doctrine number 2, just because we have the best hammer does not mean that every problem is a nail. Yes, no military force, no military might, nobody can go up against the United States military. It is a fact we are the best. It is a fact we are the most powerful. It is a fact that we have more than anybody else. Now, yesterday on 60 Minutes, President Obama said boldly that the United States always takes the lead. He said, when there are problems in the world, everyone calls on the U.S. He implied that countries that attempt to give the semblance of power are never there to lead. While all those statements are true, leading does not necessarily mean putting your country at risk unnecessarily. There is much to say about allowing ISIL to die from attrition and a lack of supply. Yet no one is talking about that. No one. To be specific, think about the following. Much of the arms ISIL has are U.S. tanks and other armaments. Those are the ones they stole, right? They require ammunition from our manufacturers, American manufacturers and others that made the munitions for these different arms, these armaments. Now tell me, how much ammunition do they have and how long do you think it'll last? How difficult would it be to track that supply line? Doesn't require us to kill, bomb, or do anything to innocent folks. Attrition, folks, attrition. ISIS has a couple $2 billion and a few refineries under its control. Is it really difficult to penalize and seize both ill-gotten oil and financial transactions in the world unified economy? Why destroy refineries? Interesting enough, that becomes a gift to the oil industry, as blowing up those 2 refineries caused oil to shoot up $3. So who pays? I mean, everything that's going on right now, somehow the average middle-class American pays. They pay. While the profiteers in the military-industrial complex, while all others that have no skin in the game, no kids going to war, nothing, they pay with their life. They pay with their monies. While we fight among ourselves, whether the right thing is again to go to war. How much more manipulation can we take? We fight among each other. Should we go to war? Should we not go to war? Is it the right thing? And those at the top, the military-industrial complex, they look down from their pedestal. Look at those clowns fighting for whether to make us $1 billion versus $500 million, whether to make $10 billion over $1 billion. We are the peons. One wonders why these sensible actions that would minimize the deaths of civilians and American soldiers are not effected. One can assume that it's because there is much profit to be made from laundered oil, laundered arms, and an infrastructure built to rebuild, destroy, and rebuild. I continue to believe the military-industrial complex and many in the private business community are playing on Americans' fears. The question is, When will we as a nation toughen up and confront those who continue to pilfer us as they lead us astray? Folks, think about it. Do you disagree with me? Give me a call. 281, or rather, I'm sorry, wrong number, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-KPFT. I really, really want to hear from you. I want to hear your thoughts. Folks, this is serious, and for a long time, we've sit back. We have sit back, gone to war, and gone and just be manipulated. I want to hear your thoughts. Am I all wrong? Am I full of it? Terry, you're on.
Hello.
Talk to me.
What did we fight the Korean War about?
Because our biggest fear in the Korean War is that somehow the progress of communism would have crossed the line.
Is there a North Korea now?
There is a North Korea, my friend. It didn't
When
work.
we fought the Vietnam War, what was that about?
Same thing, my dear friend. And guess what? We got
Who won? Who won?
Well, we lost.
Yeah, remember that iconic picture in 1975 evacuating from the embassy?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I remember including all the helicopters that we had to push off the aircraft carriers to get more people on board. Yes, I do.
After General Dynamics, Raytheon, McDonnell Douglas, et al. Had been paid for them.
Yes.
They weren't on consignment.
Exactly.
We went to Afghanistan. Are the Afghans still there?
Yes, they are.
Are the...
But wait, Terry,
wait,
let me...
wait.
Okay, go ahead.
Freedom fighters
Yes.
/ Mujahideen / Taliban
Yes.
/ Al-Qaeda.
Yes.
Are they still there?
Yes, they are.
You know, and that progression is very important because remember now,
Yes, sir.
when the Russians were there, we called them the Mujahideen, and we armed them to kill the Russians. Remember when Iran and Iraq were at each other's throats? We armed the Iraqis to kill the Iranians, and the Iraqis were brave desert fighters.
Terry,
Now they're murderous thugs.
it is extremely important when you mention the Mujahideen. It is extremely important because many of us don't get it. Many of us don't get that a lot of these creations were the blowback or the reaction of what we've done. Okay, so I mean you get that right. But Terry, since you are on with me a while, I want to get to, and Mike, I'm going to come to you next, but I want to talk to Paula because Paula has a dissenting opinion, and I really want to engage Paula. So let's hold you back, Terry, and let's go to Paula. Paula, how you doing, my friend?
Oh, no, I think there was some miscommunication. I do not have a dissenting opinion. I just wanted to thank you for actually, having kind of honest media. I completely agree that, foreign policy is decided by, the military-industrial complex.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry. I did want to just add one thing that was kind of recent. So the threat of Coruscant, which now we're finding out today, is, I remember doing some independent research on it and not being able to find anything older than like 2 weeks.
Right.
And I just read an article today by The Intercept saying basically the same thing. Someone can only imagine this is just kind of another, something else they're adding into the, in the media campaign to go into, Syria and Iraq.
Look, I'm glad that you brought up Khorasan because it is amazing how all these, I really think that there are many in our government, in our military-industrial complex, in our plutocracy, who really has disdain for the intelligence of the average American citizen. Because,
definitely.
And not only that, they don't realize there's this thing called the internet. And that not only that there is this thing called the internet, that there are people that are willing to use it and not only use it to find information that they want to see, want to hear, but learn from it, which is what I use it for. I'm a sponge. I love to learn, including learning from you guys, all the callers that call in. And so when I heard that you had a dissenting, or we thought you had a dissenting opinion, I really wanted to know if there was something I was going to learn. But I'm glad to hear that maybe I learned enough when I did all the reading that I've been doing.
Yeah, I think one thing that also, you know, what the internet, how the internet might actually hurt any kind of, you know, movement against like the military-industrial complex. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you're just flooded with so much information,
right?
And 98% of it is completely unreliable,
right?
And I think it's almost used to kind of saturate, you know, the populace and confuse them. You know, I know that certainly when I first heard of Coruscant, I was like, wow, I thought I kept up with this kind of stuff. Like, where's this group coming from? Like, what's going on? And it, you know, when you don't find anything, you just, I think they use a kind of an idea of like secrecy, and then also by like saturating you with information just to confuse. You
Paula,
know?
you're so right. But you know what is something interesting that people do as well. What people do a lot, or a lot of times, is there are a lot of these other groups, right? So when you bring Al Nusra and you start calling all these names, it sounds like there's this network of organizations ready to come to the attack of America. Look,
how many times have they legitimately attacked us?
And not only,
part,
you know like, what folks fail to realize, and I'm coming to you next, Mike, and then Bruce. What folks fail to realize, Paula, is the following. We have been blessed as Americans to have two huge oceans on both sides of us, on the eastern side and the western side, and two great friendly countries, Mexico and Canada. So unlike all those countries over there that have borders with hostility on one side, etc., 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 we have been blessed by geography. So a lot of what we have to do is, a lot of our fighting really is external to the sphere of influence of our hemisphere.
Yeah.
So think about that. After being blessed with that, why do we have to? And look, I am not a pacifist in the least. I am pro whatever we have to do to maintain the integrity of America, whatever we have to do to maintain our freedom, whatever we have to do to maintain our economy, all that good stuff. But what I'm saying is, what I'm seeing right now is whatever we need to do to maintain the pockets of a plutocracy, and even our wars are that way. But do you have anything else that you want to add, Paula, before I jump on? But I really appreciate your call.
No, I totally, I just, once again, thanks for always putting on an awesome show and being one of the only real dissenting voices I hear in the media, at least.
Look, I appreciate that. I've been trying in all spheres. Take a look at Daily Kos. I have some articles that I've written out there, and, some of them weren't very well received, but, check it out. DailyKos.com.
I check it out because I feel like I just catch the show randomly driving, and then I never...
Right.
Take this moment to plug your show in, maybe. I don't know.
Well, good. Thank you very much for listening, Paula.
All right, cool. Thanks. Have a good one.
You too now. Mike Hales, talk to me.
Yeah, what's going on, Alberto?
Hey, I'm just fine, my dear friend. Talk to me. Let me hear what you think. Am I wrong?
Well, again, I wanted to call you just to thank you for coming out yesterday. I just tuned into the show, so I wasn't really sure what the subject matter was.
Right.
I wanted to call you just to say thank you for coming out yesterday and supporting us over at the Pachanga. And really, we need more voices like yours to be heard. And again,
well,
say thank you.
We need a composite voices. We need to be all out there, and we need to be all talking among each other and bringing more folks into the fold, like yourself, putting yourself on the line. I think we all have to do that. This is no longer the time for us to sit back and just let things happen to us. It is time.
Absolutely.
It is time for us.
And that's one of my points, and one of the reasons why I'm running is to be able to tell people that they need to get out and be more active in what's going on in the community. And if we don't get more involved and engaged in what's actually happening in our local communities, then we really shouldn't sit back and complain about what's going on if we're not willing to get engaged.
Absolutely. We all have to get into the game. And that's, let me tell you what I'm trying to do, Michael. I'm trying to create an atmosphere where a lot of folks that aren't generally engaged in politics or usually feel that they don't make a difference are not fearful in engaging, realizing that, look, I am just a regular guy that decided to get into being an activist actually I've been an activist when I came to the country, but, still being an activist. All of us in this country at this point in our history, at this point in American history, we need to remember 1775, 1776, and start doing to them what the others did. In other words, it's important, you know. I mean, we have a group right now, Mike, that loves to talk about tyranny.
Mm-hmm.
Tyranny. You know who that group is. They love to talk about the tyranny that's occurring.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest tyranny has nothing to do with average middle class folks. The tyranny has nothing to do with Democrats. The tyranny has nothing to do with, and hear me, blasphemy, real Republicans or good people.
Mm-hmm.
The tyranny has to do with a plutocracy who is pitting folks against each other. And we got to get to that. We got to get to that.
And I agree with that. And matter of fact, if you saw my campaign slogan as a man for all the people. As
Absolutely.
I'm running for this petition.
Michael, I was impressed with that. I tell you what, I'm give you the floor to make a statement before I go to the other caller, but do make a statement about your campaign. Anybody, I don't care who you are, if you're going out there to work for the people, this is your platform. Make a statement, sir.
Oh, yes, sir. Well, again, my platform is I'm a man for all the people, and actually I'm new to politics, and again, I'm running for State Representative District 16. And one of the things that has been unique and interesting to me as I've been out on the campaign trail is to find out that so many people have really just given up on our process because they think that their vote doesn't matter and they think that their voice doesn't matter. And I want to be a voice for the people. And, of course, my campaign is a grassroots campaign. We're not beholden to any kind of political action committees. We're not beholden to any kind of special interest group because I wanted to be able to make sure that I do the bidding of the people of District 16 and also for the people of the state of Texas. And one of the things that I do know is when you're beholden to other groups and other organizations, you really can't do what the people want you to do because you owe so many people that have contributed to your campaign. And if you get into politics to be a lifelong politician, that's the wrong reason. You should get into it in order to try to make a difference. And that's why I'm in it. My background and my work that I do in the community, we have a nonprofit agency that we help people gain independence through education and employment. And that work has been so successful in the area where people have just really been after me for years to run for political office. But I, too, was like most other people and didn't want to get involved in it because when you put yourself out there on the front line, people are going to take shots at you. They're going to talk about you. But you really, really got to be committed to making a difference for everybody. And that's why I'm running for this office. And I'm just praying and hoping that people will support me and go out and vote for me in order to where I can make a difference. And that's one of the things that I'm hoping to do.
Well, Mike, thank you very much for calling the show. And like I said, my forum is open to any politician who really wants to work for the people. Do remember that I read up on folks that come on here, and I will question you if there are issues within your proxy, if you will, that is less than a people middle class centric policy driven platform. So again, Mike, thank you for calling.
And thank you for having me. And again, I wanted to just thank you so much for yesterday. I really appreciated you coming out. And again, if there's anything that we can do to address any of the concerns that you might have, please don't hesitate to give me a call.
Thank you, sir. But let me tell you, the pleasure was mine. It was fun being out there with so many different folks, different cultures, different music, different everything. That was America out there, brother. Take care.
It was great, too. It really was. So, again, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Bruce, you disagree with me. Talk to me.
Well, I just wanted to kind of clarify what you're saying there.
Yes, sir.
So you're saying that was Halliburton executives and fake beards beheading those people?
No, sir, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. But continue. Well, please continue because I think I see where you're going.
The gist of what you're saying is, well, there are bad things happening. A lot of places in the world, and we're just going there because there's oil. You know, it sort of sounds like a version of what Ronald Reagan's famous "boys will be boys" quote when he was told about the Israeli strike on their Iraqi nuclear reactor. You know.
Okay, good point. Good point.
Have you ever heard the expression "choose your battles"?
Yes.
Okay. You can't blame the president.
I'm not.
For choosing his battles carefully.
Let me tell you, can I answer you? Because I want to ensure that nobody believes that I am actually, that I am going against the commander-in-chief, whose responsibility is to keep us safe and do what he's supposed to do. And not only that, if you take a look at what has occurred, I mean, Obama is following the will of the people. Okay, let me qualify what I'm saying now. This is very important, and I want you to understand this. And where you disagree, please also feel free to do so. But here's the deal: let's go back to last year. Okay, when we had the problems in Syria, the president was accused of not acting and allowing his red line to keep moving forward. Why? The president's attempt was to do everything except going into war. His policy has always been the two simple tenets that I said there. I mean, it sounds simple, but it's serious. Don't do something stupid. And if you have a hammer, every problem is not a nail. He took a lot of hits for not going into Syria, because he knew there may have been another way, and he bought time. He's taken a lot for it, but what he did was to call the Congress's bluff then. And he said, okay, I have the authority to go into Syria and bomb, while at the same time that he's fubbing on that, he's negotiating, because now Syria is concerned. Oh my God, this guy is really going to bomb us. So he gets all the chemical weapons burned and taken out without a war. But when Congress was supposed to step up, of course, they didn't. But I mean, in the process, his don't do something stupid worked. Because
I think Obama's been a brilliant foreign policy.
Exactly. And please don't. I really want to.
Can you imagine what a disaster the last few years would have been if the Republicans had been in there?
Yes, sir. And I in Bruce, when you called in here, based on what you're saying, I knew that the disagreement was more about the misunderstanding of what I was saying. Moving on.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, also, I just filled up my car for $2.98 a gallon.
Right.
And you can thank Vladimir Putin for that.
But let's back up. Let's continue the important part of this conversation, because I want to get back to Iraq and Syria and ISIS, because here's what I wanted to tell you when you talk about the beheadings and so forth. I think those beheadings, they played a material effect on how I felt, right? And how you felt. Nobody wants to see somebody's head being cut off. I mean,
they're playing us like a fiddle.
Exactly. You don't want to see that. But
really, what they're doing is they want us to engage them and hit them as hard as possible.
Exactly.
Because they think they're going to learn, and they're going to get tougher.
But not only that, but they also, look, they can only stay alive if we keep them alive. And how do we keep them alive? We create a guerrilla warfare, because I don't know if you listened to the blog piece that I wrote, because it's very, very important. Remember, they're using a lot of American equipment. What does American equipment need? American supplies, American ammunition. They're using the banking system when they took over Mosul. The banks that they stole all the money from, or that they're using, that money cannot circulate except within the framework of the world's economy. They have 2 oil refineries that we bombed. We didn't have to bomb them because that oil couldn't get on the market. If we really didn't want that oil on the market, we forget that the NSA has unlimited listening powers, unlimited views of transactions. All these things are there. The only difference, and what I was when I tried to put the blame on the plutocracy and the bankers and the industrialists, is that, remember, these guys are providing arms to both sides of this war. You know, in other words,
I don't think we're being manipulated into this war by the military-industrial complex.
I can prove that we are.
I think we're being manipulated into this war by ISIS themselves,
but
because they they sincerely believe, if we hit them as hard as we possibly can, they're just going to learn from it and get tougher.
Let me remember what I'm saying now. Think about this. Attrition. In other words,
they're spreading like wildfire.
But,
where does the attrition come in?
And let me finish. Attrition comes. What arms are they using, and what monies are they using? In other words, if you have a plant, it doesn't matter how strong that plant is. If you kill its sources of energy, if you kill its sources of nutrition, it dies. Okay? It dies. It dies as an effective force. I'm not saying you're not going to have the skirmishes with knives or the skirmishes with a few low impact guns, etc., etc., etc. I'm saying that it as a force will die.
If you read more the military side of the news, you will see that American intelligence officials and American special forces operators and former special operators are just in awe of these people.
You see, and that's the funny thing about it. These people that we're in awe of, whenever America just dropped a few bombs, we got back the dam in Mosul. Whenever we dropped a few bombs, we got back the hill where they had 50,000 people hostages. I mean, what I'm saying is the rhetoric doesn't match the reality. In other words, it wasn't difficult for us to...
They're saying the quality of these ISIS troops is an order of magnitude better than anything they've ever seen.
But, again, my dear friend, that's what they say. I remember all that they said in 2003 going into Iraq. I remember perfectly what they said. And all the reality is, there is a piece that was done by Lieutenant Colonel for Colin Powell. I don't remember his name right now. He was Colin Powell's assistant. And he said, the reality, and this is a colonel, worked for Colin Powell. He said he has all the inside information. These people are easily beat.
No, that's not what they're saying about ISIS.
I know that's not. But
they're saying we've never faced anything.
That's what they're saying to us. That is what they're saying to us. And
these people, a lot of them are retired special forces.
My friend,
they don't have to lie.
My friend,
they're retired. They're not. Why would they lie?
There's a simple reason why they lie. It's not about, first of all, I don't want to go into the issue of, are they lying or are they not lying? I'm just saying, let's look at what's happening. In other words.
What I would suggest for you is instead of just reading the pure political sources you're reading, read more of the military sources.
Here's the issue. First of all, you have to read trustworthy information, okay? And the least trustworthy information one can read right now is anything coming from military, ex-military, or folks that are potentially the people that would have worked for Blackwater and all these guys, because they all have a financial interest in us going over there. Because you know what we do over there? Everybody knows now that America does not have the stomach to throw a whole lot of boots on the ground. So you know what we did at the end of the Iraq War when we lost too many people? We threw a lot of mercenaries in there. Blackwater and all these other, well, I don't think they call themselves Blackwater anymore, but all these different organizations sent people over there, and they made, while we paid our soldiers $30,000 a year, we paid them $100,000 a year. What I'm trying to get folks to do is not to listen to what I am saying. I am asking folks to open their horizons. Now, in your case, you've read a lot of the military information. I'm saying there's a lot more to reach. There's a reporter who broke the story on Iran Contra. I don't remember his name right now. He has quite a few pieces on this issue. There are a lot of reputable sources that have no skin in the game. Military does have skin in the game.
Retired military
has skin in the game. Check what stocks they own. They have skin in the game.
I'm not talking about high-up officers. I'm talking about retired special forces operators.
Okay.
They just the ordinary operators.
I hear you. We'll have to disagree on that one, my friend. But
what I would suggest, start reading the military trade journals and read between the lines.
Yeah, the thing,
Aviation and space.
I will scan those. I will scan some of the military stuff, but like I said, you have to trust your sources. And given that those sources have been so bad, so wrong in the past, I find it difficult to actually believe them now. Because to me, it's like Obama's second tenet, a hammer. Whenever you have a hammer, everything seems like a nail. That's how I generally read them.
You know how to read between the lines.
Yes, sir, I do.
Compare one source to another.
Yes, sir.
You know.
Yes, sir. But look, I really appreciate your call, and we don't have to agree all the time and all that good stuff. But keep listening, keep calling, and if you have valid information, or even if you have any specific link that you'd like me to see, please go ahead and pass it on at the Facebook page, Politics Done Right. If you just go to the Politics Done Right Facebook page, nobody has all the answers.
I was trying to be the last person on earth to create a Facebook page.
Well, look, I just got you into Facebook, my brother. So send me some links that you have, because I love reading this stuff. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye.
Folks, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. That number is 713-526-KPFT. And Roxy says it this way.
713-JAM, KPFT.
And jam is what we do. Before I get Terry back on, folks, Terry's the only one on the line right now. Give us a call. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Don't be fearful of calling. I want to hear your opinions, whether you agree with me or not, because that is how we get someplace. And if you notice, I don't really get mad at folks who disagree with me at all. Terry, come on in. What do you think about what you heard thus far?
Well, I don't believe any of it. The gentleman who said, listen to the military, my question would be, why would I listen to the people who were wrong about Vietnam, the people who were wrong about the first Gulf War, the people who were wrong about the second Gulf War, the people who said we'd be greeted as liberators and the Iraqi war would take 6 months? Why would I listen to those people?
Yeah, and that is true. But one of the things we got to do, Terry, is, and one of my good friends, guy that used to call a whole lot before, kind of is upset with me right now because of this stance that I'm taking on the war. And like I said, I like the idea of folks disagreeing, but I also prefer that you come and you make your case. Look, I'm going to tell you something, Terry. If you find something, and I think you and I have gone to have some coffee before, and you've changed my mind right out. And I'll come and say, whoops, I never thought about it that way. And going forward, got to look at it that way. And that is what dialogue is all about. And I wish more people, I think if more Americans got into that frame of mind, they wouldn't feel tied to their positions like, I agree with the war, and because they took that position of agreeing with the war, they will no longer again ever disagree with it, because they can't change their position. They don't know how to say, I guess I was wrong.
Well, we tried war for 221, I believe, out of the 238 years of our existence. So how much more war do we need? How many more countries do we have to invade? How many more people do we have to kill?
Yes.
Someone mentioned the beheadings and how outrageous that was. Well, you know what? Saudi Arabia, in the month of September, I think there were either 12 to 20 beheadings.
Right.
Do we invade there?
Right.
15 of the 19 hijackers came from Saudi Arabia.
Right.
Do we invade there?
Right.
We don't ever go where the real problem is. We dance around the issue. We create these false narratives of who the boogeyman is,
right,
so that we can go ahead and pacify the military-industrial complex.
And we have to get away from that. And the thing about it, Terry, is that people are not doing – I don't know if you heard the beginning blog that I said, because I want to make sure that people don't dare think that I am somehow assuming that folks are less than intelligent. It's just that I know the power of persuasion, because I've been persuaded wrongly before.
Well,
I know that power.
It isn't an aggregate of a number.
Exactly. Right.
Intelligence is your actions.
Right.
And if you come on this show and you spout drivel that's patently false because you heard it from some moron, then yeah, you are stupid.
Right. Well,
and let's call a spade a spade.
But I wouldn't do that, but I hear you. Terry, hold on a second. Let me get to Manny. I'll be back to you. Okay, Manny.
Hey.
Terry,
How
call
you
back.
doing?
I think we dropped you by mistake. Call us back. Yeah, go ahead, Manny.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I was just kind of, I just wanted to say that I agree with some points and disagree with a lot of points.
Well, you start telling me, my
We
friend.
should believe what the government is putting out or organizations like Blackwater, but at the same time, I believe that we can look at things like trading, like maybe not necessarily trading records, but kind of in between the lines with sort of fiscal reports
Right.
that are kind of held like, oh no, kind of separate from that sort of information, because that's really the sort of information that revealed truths in the past. Like, I read about trade accounts between Egyptians and Romans that kind of pointed the Israelites to be Ethiopians.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, and that's something that's in certain communities a big argument, because some people think that Ethiopians refer to just Ethiopia, but little people know that Ethiopia was referred to Africa as a whole at one point in time. So I'm just saying there's little things that we could easily find out just by looking at different trading accounts possibly, or just like what's going on in the market period, because the way I figure out a lot about what's going on in the world is actually by watching CNBC.
You want me to tell you something
the
interesting?
business.
I'm glad you actually just brought up the market and says we can actually look at the indicators or in the market and learn a whole lot. You know something? You're right.
Yeah,
And guess what the
numbers
indicators...
are literally just abstract versions of our world.
And guess what it's telling us about this war? It tells us that we're going to war, and it tells us that we're going to be that we're going to be manufacturing a whole lot of bombs, because Lockheed and all these other guys, those stocks are up.
Exactly. And also at that, you know, when Obama was debating against McCain, and like before he was elected,
Right.
he never said he was not gonna go to war. He just said, we're gonna go to war here, we're gonna finish that war, we're gonna go to war here, we're gonna start another war.
The Obama,
He really,
President Obama said, President Obama is no pacifist.
no
and in
way.
fact,
He's
President,
the most militant.
he's more
probably
militant.
the most militant guy we had since Andrew Jackson.
But the thing about the president is that he is smart. And
Yeah,
there's a
he is
lot
sort of
that's
a
occurring.
statist.
There's a lot that's occurring that's under the radar. I am not going to go positive or negative on anything of that, because the reality is I haven't been following closely enough things of the drones that I probably should have, as much as I am following the ISIL kind of a thing. But you are correct. You are correct about that. This guy ain't no pacifist in the least. He just does things in an interesting manner. You know, so.
He's very sneaky, and that's what I kind of dislike in the currently in our country. We have a lot of. I feel like the anti-Obama rhetoric is almost like how would you say, like a flashbang.
Well,
completely distracting people from really what you should be looking at Obama.
Well,
I feel like a lot of people are just blatantly disliking the guy just because kind of like a right-wing movement.
Well,
But
actually,
there's
you
more
know,
to that.
look. People disliked Clinton. People disliked a lot of other presidents, but none received the dislike and disrespect that this president has gotten. And we don't have to sit down here and plaster in America's face the reason why. But you know what? You live and go beyond those things. And you know what we can proudly say about this president is that this president has not allowed those things to deter him in what he wants to do, whether good or bad. He is his own man, and that's how he operates. Now, in this issue with ISIS, I can tell you one thing. He has been forced by the American population to do what he is doing now, because I can tell you that based on his tenets and based on his speeches, this is not what he intended to do. But American opinion, based on all the media that they've gotten and all the perfectly illustrated propaganda, has moved America into a footing that says, let's go and do something. And there are some numbers that came out today that made me even more fearful. And that is the plurality that is now talking about not being concerned about having boots on the ground. So it's working, folks, unless you guys are engaging throughout your networks, your Facebooks, you're calling into shows, and all these things trying to convince your friends that we are going somewhere we need not go. America is on the ball. America is ready. And the plutocracy has already convinced Americans that ISIS is an existential threat, and we've got to do something. But anyway, it was a pleasure speaking to you, Manny. Is there anything else that you need to say quick, sir?
I really just want to say I appreciate your program, and I'll be checking you guys out more often, because honestly, I don't usually listen to this particular program on KPFT.
Well, look, I appreciate you listening, my brother. You have a great day, okay?
You as well.
Let's go to Jim. Talk to me, Jim.
This is Kim.
Kim, talk to me.
Okay, well, sir, I just barely got back to the program. I had been doing some work around the house, and I did not know exactly, but I heard you guys talking about Obama and et cetera, and something that I think that a lot of people, and this is an opinion, not a fact.
Look, you're free to say it.
The opinion is that the presidency is a position that seems to be, in my opinion, once again, that is given to whomever wins the lotto, of course, and they allow them to do whatever they can do. They really have no power at all, because the money guys are the guys that run the show.
Let me stop you right there, Tim, and tell you something first of all. For the very most part, you are correct.
Okay.
The president...
I'm wrong.
I didn't say you're wrong at all. I didn't say you're wrong, because the presidency has its own gravity. You're right about that. And that gravity means that that guy who has the presidency has to navigate the plutocracy, he has to navigate the people, he has to navigate a Congress, and it has its own gravity. And the best he can do is a navigation that does not push any of those three factors in such a manner that they pull him in. In other words, his latitude is not very great. And in fact, for a lot of the folks that have been criticizing the president over these last months, and look, I have criticized the president on certain issues, but I also think that this president is a darn smart president and has got more accomplished than most. But that said, you are correct that there's just a minute amount of speed at which he can actually move, because the gravity of the office and exactly what you said about the moneyed interest being able to exert power is very powerful.
Okay,
And here,
well, hey, thank you for bringing the money interest back up, because that, I think, is the entire, unfortunately, I will say, that is what drives this entire, I can't come up with a word for it.
that's all right. I can tell you, I can add to what you're saying if you give me a chance to, and it's the following. The reason money has the influence it has is because of the apathy of the American population. And I'm speaking now not only to you, Tim, but to everybody that can listen to my voice here. And that is, it is time for us to take responsibility and accept that the dysfunction in this country is not because of bad politicians, but because of the apathy and bad actions of us, the people, we, the people. We are likely going to elect people that we know are corrupt in this election in November. We are going to elect people that have told us to our face that they have no interest in the well-being of the middle class, but they'll get elected. Texas is going to elect a few members of the Senate, and likely some at large, that will materially harm their financial well-being, their health well-being, their social well-being. But just because they type an ideological line, they'll be elected. The question is, when will America get tough, and not only get tough, but start electing people who they know, or who has policies that when they wake up the next few months, they can see policies in their own interests. In the case of Texas,
sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I will push the envelope.
Thank you. Go.
And the envelope push is, I really firmly, I'm like, I'll be 65 next June.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been around for a long time. I've been watching, listening, and definitely KPFT has been instrumental in giving me knowledge.
Thank you.
But, not just KPFT. It's like just paying attention to the world, watching what is happening. And what I do believe is that we have a complacent society.
Yes.
We have a bunch of people that are getting rich or figuring out how to get rich, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when the masses and I am one of the low masses, it's like I struggle every week to know.
You got 30 seconds, my friend, so
bills.
tell me in your 30 seconds what you've got to say.
Okay, 30 seconds. I struggle every week to pay my bills. I don't know if I can pay my water bill,
Mm-hmm.
my light bill, or whatever. Maybe I can work enough to get this done. We are, at some point, cannot afford a $30,000 car. I can't afford one, I'll guarantee you that right now. And we shall rise up at
Yes.
some point in time, and that is when
Yes.
push comes to shove.
Sir, and that's
people
why,
will know.
thank you. Look, Tim, thank you very much for calling. Please continue to listen to the show and
I will.
keep calling in, my friend. When you have something to say, we want to hear it. And I want to give Terry a chance to give his closing statement. Terry, come on in, my brother.
Yes, listening to the discussion tonight, it's apparent that very few people, in my opinion, understand the complexity of the issues involving the Iraq and Syria issues, and it's really indicative of the state of the country. You opened the show by saying that you didn't think Americans were less than intelligent, but some of their administrations tonight demonstrate exactly that. So sadly, we have a lot of work to do to educate people so that they accept fact over fiction and fact versus narrative.
Thank you very much, Terry. I appreciate the call as usual. Instrumental. Now, folks, I'll talk to you next week, my brother. Now, look, what Terry said there it's rather important. I take a tack different. I know the effects of persuasion. I know the effects of people not getting the information that they need appropriately. But folks, I do appreciate your ears. I do appreciate you listening to me. If anybody who wanted to say something that didn't call in, please go to our Facebook page, Politics Done Right. Politics Done Right on Facebook, or you can go to our website, politicsdoneright.com. Thank you for listening. With that, I am out.
Thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. You can personally reach me by sending an email to egberto@politicsdoneright.com. Remember, Egberto is spelled E-G-B-E-R-T-O. Change starts with you. 90.1 KPFT gives you information not tainted by corporate interest. Please visit kpft.org and contribute. Let's ensure continued access to real information and news remain available to all. Again, thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right.